कल के इसमें ना वो हम चैतन्य चरितामृत से पढ़ रहे हैं, आदि मध्य लीला का 10वां अध्याय है और श्लोक नंबर 46 है। कल का देखोगे, कल के पीडीएफ फाइल में आपको मिलेगा चैतन्य चरितामृत का मध्य लीला का 10वां अध्याय। इसका हिंदी में अनुवाद है, वे परमानंद प्रहराज हैं जो महापात्र नाम से भी जाने जाते हैं। ये बहुत ही बुद्धिमान है। तात्पर्य, प्रहराज उपाधि उन ब्राह्मणों को दी जाती है जो सिंहासन रिक्त होने पर राजा का प्रतिनिधित्व करते हैं। उड़ीसा में राजा की मृत्यु के समय से लेकर दूसरे राजा के सिंहासन आरूढ़ होने तक प्रतिनिधि ही सिंहासन पर आसीन होता है। यह प्रतिनिधि को बोलते हैं प्रहराज। प्रहराज का चुनाव जो है सामान्यतः राजा के निकट के पुरोहितों के परिवार में ही किया जाता है। श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु के जमाने में परमानंद महाराज ही प्रहराज थे। यहाँ पर प्रहराज का मीनिंग बताया गया कि मान लो कोई राजा की मृत्यु हो गई और कोई नया राजा आने वाले, तो दो राजाओं के आने के बीच में जो समय है उसमें किसी को राजा अपॉइंट किया जाता है, उसको प्रहराज बताएंगे। ये सब वैष्णव ए क्षेत्र भूषण, बोलिए,
क्षेत्र भूषण,
एकांत एकांत भावे चिंते सबे तुम्हारा चरण,
चिंतने में तुम्हारे चरण।
ये सब जो चल रहा है आपकी जानकारी के सार्वभौम भट्टाचार्य चैतन्य महाप्रभु को इंट्रोड्यूस करा रहे हैं जगन्नाथपुरी में। अब महाप्रभु जस्ट लौट के आए साउथ इंडिया यात्रा से, उनको बता रहे हैं ये कौन है, ये कौन है, ऐसे बता रहे। तो बता रहे इसका ट्रांसलेशन, ये सारे शुद्ध भक्त जगन्नाथपुरी के आभूषण के समान सेवा करते हैं और ये सभी आपके चरण कमलों का अविचलित भाव से ध्यान करते हैं। इनके मन में एक ही उद्देश्य है, आपके चरणों का ध्यान करना। ये इंपॉर्टेंट है क्योंकि एक भक्त का लक्षण क्या है, नरोत्तम दास ठाकुर बोलते हैं, गौरांगेर दूती पाद जार धन संपदा से जाने भगति रस सार। गौरंग महाप्रभु के चरण कमल है, जिसने गौरंग महाप्रभु के चरण कमल को सब कुछ मान लिया है वही भक्ति के सार को जानते हैं। जे गौरंगेर नाम लोए तारा होए प्रेमोदय, जब गौरंग महाप्रभु का नाम भी लेता है उसके हृदय में कृष्ण प्रेम जागृत हो जाता है। तारा मुई जाई बलिहारी, मैं उनके चरणों में बलिहारी हो रहा हूं। तो यहाँ पे इंपॉर्टेंट मैं बताया कि सारे शुद्ध भक्त को आभूषण माना गया, मतलब कोई चीज सजाने के लिए आभूषण यूज होता है। तो मंदिर को धाम सजाते कौन है, भगवान के शुद्ध भक्त। भगवान की उपस्थिति से ही धाम को धाम माना जाता है। तीर्थ कुर्वन्ति तीर्थानि, जो भगवान के शुद्ध भक्त हैं वही तीर्थों को तीर्थ बनाते हैं। अबे म्यूट करना पड़ेगा। हरि बोल,
म्यूट कर रहा हूँ।
किसका आवाज है?
दीदी का, माता जी कोई है तो
उनको बोलिए, मैसेज करिए।
ये सर।
तबे सुबह भूमि पड़े दंडवत भैया, सबे आलंगिया प्रभु प्रसाद कोरिया,
प्रभु प्रसाद करिया।
इस परिचय के बाद सारे लोग जमीन पर दंडे की तरह गिर पड़े। दंडवत, श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु ने हर एक पर कृपा करके उन सबका आलिंगन किया। अब ये सब डिवोटीज पहली बार मिल रहे हैं, चैतन्य महाप्रभु को दंडवत कर रहे हैं। दंडवत का मतलब है कि बहुत ही सरल भाव से प्रणाम करना। जैसे एक डंडा गिरता है, स्ट्रेट गिरता है डंडा, दंडवत। सर्पवत नहीं, सर्पवत मतलब टेढ़ा बेड़ा, है ना। दंडवत, जैसे अद्वैत कृष्ण प्रभु आए एकदम तुरंत राधा माधव का ऑल्टर देखा, दंडवत। कोई कंसिडरेशन नहीं कि कहाँ पर प्रणाम कर रहा हूँ, कौन मुझे देख रहा है, कि है ना, कोई यूट्यूब में है कि माई ट्यूब में है, है ना। कई बार लोग दंडवत करके सोचते हैं अरे ये तो ये मायापुर टीवी में मेरा फोटो जा रहा है कि नहीं, है ना। लेकिन प्रभु जी एकदम स्पष्ट स्वभाव के, साधु को ऐसा होना चाहिए दंडवत। हर एक जीव में कृष्ण की उपस्थिति का अनुभव करना चाहिए। कृष्ण अधिष्ठाने सर्वे जीवे जानी, ये जानते हुए कि कृष्ण सबके हृदय में, सबको यथावत प्रणाम करना, ये शुद्ध भक्त का लक्षण है। यहाँ पर चैतन्य महाप्रभु को देखकर सब लोग दंडवत प्रणाम कर रहे हैं और महाप्रभु हर एक को प्रेम से आलिंगन कर रहे हैं। हे न काल आइल तथा भवानंद राय, चारि पुत्र संग पड़े महाप्रभु र पाया।
बड़े महाप्रभु रे पाया।
सभी भवानंद राय अपने 4 पुत्रों को साथ में लेकर आए और वे सभी चैतन्य महाप्रभु के चरणों में गिर पड़े। ये भवानंद राय कौन थे? कृष्ण लीला में
महाराज पांडु।
महाराज पांडु थे। और यहाँ पे 4 पुत्र क्यों लिखा है, 5 क्यों नहीं लिखा है?
रामानंद राय,
हाँ
वो सर साउथ इंडिया में थे।
नहीं, वो साउथ इंडिया से आ गए। नहीं, करेक्ट, साउथ इंडिया में थे, करेक्ट। तात्पर्य में प्रभुपाद जी बताते हैं भवानंद राय के 5 पुत्र थे, जिनमें से एक अत्यंत कोटि के महापुरुष रामानंद राय थे। ये 5 पुत्रों के नाम क्या है अद्वैत कृष्ण प्रभु? एक तो रामानंद राय हो गए, भवानंद राय के और पुत्रों का नाम क्या है?
गोपीनाथ आचार्य
गोपीनाथ पटनायक
और वाणीनाथ पटनायक,
वाणीनाथ पटनायक,
कलानिधि तथा सुधानिधि।
देख के तो नहीं बता रहे ना? हाँ देख के
बता रही हूँ।
फिर क्या है? कोई बात नहीं, कोई बात नहीं, कम से कम देख तो रहे ना, बाकी लोग देख भी नहीं रहे। कोई अगर ग्लास में आधा ग्लास पानी है तो यार भाई आधा ही भरा है, कम से कम आधा तो भरा है ना, खाली देखने की बजाय। तो भवानंद राय के 5 पुत्र थे, तात्पर्य में लिखे है, जिनमें से एक अत्यंत उच्च कोटि के महापुरुष रामानंद राय थे। भवानंद राय पहली बार चैतन्य महाप्रभु से उनकी दक्षिण भारत यात्रा से वापस आने पे पहली बार मिल रहे थे। तब रामानंद राय सरकारी पद पर कार्य कर रहे थे। अतएव रामानंद राय अपने अन्य 4 पुत्रों के साथ महाप्रभु से मिलने गए। इनके नाम बताए गए वाणीनाथ और गोपीनाथ, कलानिधि और सुधानिधि। भवानंद राय उनके 5 पुत्रों का वर्णन आदि लीला में किया गया। सार्वभौम कहे ए राय भवानंद, इहार प्रथम पुत्र राय रामानंद। सर्वम भट्टाचार्य ने आगे बताया कि हे भवानंद राय, जिन ये है सामने इंट्रोड्यूस कराया, ये है भवानंद राय, ये देखिए सामने बैठे हैं भवानंद राय और इनके प्रथम पुत्र हैं रामानंद राय। तो महाप्रभु इतने खुश हो गए। अब महाप्रभु ने क्या किया? तबे महाप्रभु तारे कैला आलिंगन, स्तुति करे कहे रामानंद विवरण। चैतन्य महाप्रभु ने भावानंद राय को आलिंगन किया, बड़े आदर के साथ उनके पुत्र रामानंद राय का बखान किया, गुणगान करने लगे। तुम्हारा बेटा रामानंद राय कितना बड़ा भक्त है। रामानंद हे न रत्न जहाँ रतनया, ताहर महिमा लोके कहय न जाया। चैतन्य महाप्रभु ने रामानंद राय भवानंद राय को यह कहकर सम्मान किया कि जिस व्यक्ति को रामानंद राय जैसा पुत्र रत्न मिल गया, उसकी महिमा का वर्णन इस मृत्यु लोक में कहीं नहीं किया जा सकता। साक्षात पांडु तुम्ही तुम्हारा पत्नी कुंती, पंच पांडव तुम्हारा पंच पुत्र महामती। तो चैतन्य महाप्रभु रामानंद राय भवानंद राय को देखकर बोल रहे हैं कि आप महाराज पांडु हो और आपकी पत्नी जो है वो कौन है? साक्षात कुंती है। और आपके सारे के सारे पुत्र बहुत बुद्धिमान हैं, जो 5 पांडवों का प्रतिनिधित्व कर रहे हैं। ट्रांसलेशन करें श्रीधर प्रभु, ये पर्पट पूरा कर लेते हैं ये वाला, तो प्रेयर करें। अभी हमारे प्रेयर शुरू किया महाराज ने ना, हो गया पूरा, तुमने हमारा प्रेयर हो गया, तो ये पूरा खत्म कर देता हूँ। राय कहे आमी शूद्र,
हाँ यस प्रभु जी,
हाँ रेडी रहिए प्रभु जी, 2 मिनट में पर्पट के बाद महाराज का कनेक्ट कर देना।
हाँ हाँ यस प्रभु जी।
राय कहे आमी शूद्र विषय अधम, तबु तुम स्पर्श इहा ईश्वर लक्षण। श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु द्वारा की गई प्रशंसा सुन के भवानंद राय ने निवेदन किया कि मैं 4 वर्णों में शूद्र हूँ और सांसारिक कार्यों में लगा रहता हूँ, मैं अत्यंत पतित हूँ, फिर भी आपने मेरा स्पर्श किया, इसका प्रमाण है कि आप पूर्ण पुरुषोत्तम भगवान हैं। तो महाप्रभु यहाँ पर भवानंद राय को प्रशंसा सुनकर भवानंद राय बोले कि एक्चुअली मैं स्पर्श करने लायक नहीं हूँ, फिर भी आपने मुझे स्पर्श किया। आई थिंक देखो हरि बोल श्रीधर प्रभु।
हाँ प्रभु जी, अभी जय राधा माधव चल रहा है।
ठीक है, मैं पर्पट पूरा कर लेता हूँ।
ठीक है प्रभु जी,
ये पर्पट पूरा करें। जैसे कि भगवत गीता में कहा गया, विद्या विनय संपन्ने ब्रह्मणे कवि हस्तिनी शुनि चैव स्वपाके च पंडिता समदर्शिना। विनीत साधु अपने वास्तविक ज्ञान के बल पर विद्वान और सज्जन ब्राह्मण, गाय, हाथी, कुत्ते और चंडाल को समान दृष्टि से देखता है। जो व्यक्ति आध्यात्मिक, देखिए पर्पट पढ़ रहे हैं, जरा ध्यान दीजिए। जो व्यक्ति आध्यात्मिक ज्ञान में उन्नत है, वे किसी व्यक्ति को भौतिक अवस्था की परवाह नहीं करते। आध्यात्मिक दृष्टि से उन्नत व्यक्ति हर जीव के आध्यात्मिक स्वरूप को देखता है। वो ब्राह्मण, कुत्ते और चंडाल को भेदभाव, ब्राह्मण को देखता है वो आत्मा है, चंडाल को देखता है ये भी आत्मा है, कीड़ी को देखता है वो आत्मा को देखता है। और नेक्स्ट लाइन है, वो मनुष्य के भौतिक शरीर से प्रभावित नहीं होता, मनुष्य के आध्यात्मिक स्वरूप को देखता है। फलतः भवानंद राय को चैतन्य महाप्रभु का कथन अच्छा लगा, जिससे पता चलता है कि महाप्रभु ने भवानंद राय की सामाजिक स्थिति की परवाह नहीं की कि वे संसारिक कार्य में व्यस्त रहने वाले शूद्र हैं। मतलब हालांकि भवानंद राय शूद्र थे, चैतन्य महाप्रभु ने इस बात की परवाह नहीं की कि वो शूद्र हैं, बल्कि महाप्रभु ने भवानंद राय, रामानंद राय और उनके भाइयों को आध्यात्मिक स्थिति पर ही विचार किया। भगवान का भक्ति एक ही मनोवृत्ति रखता है, वह किसी व्यक्ति को भी, किसी भी जीव को आश्रय देता है, चाहे वह ब्राह्मण वंश का हो या चंडाल हो। गुरु सारे लोगों का उद्धार करते हैं, मतलब गुरु भेद नहीं करता कि ये शिष्य एडवांस्ड है कि ये नॉन एडवांस्ड है, ब्राह्मण है, शूद्र है। ऐसे भक्त की शरण लेना मनुष्य अपना जीवन को सफल बनाते हैं। भागवत में कहा गया, किराट हुनांद्रा, बोलिए किराट हुनांद्रा पुलिदा पुलकाशा आबीर शुंबा यवना खसादय ये अन्य च पापा यदपाश्रयाय शुद्ध्यन्ति तस्मै प्रविष्णवे नमः। किराट, हुंद्र, अलंद्र, पुलिंद, पुलकाश, अबीर, कुंभ, यवन, खस, ये सब लोग जो पाप कर्म में लगे हैं वो भगवान की शरण लेने से शुद्ध बन जाते हैं। भगवान की भक्ति परम है, मैं उनको नमस्कार करता हूँ। लास्ट पैराग्राफ है, ध्यान से सुनिए। जो कोई भी पूर्ण पुरुषोत्तम भगवान या उनके शुद्ध भक्ति शरण लेता है वो आध्यात्मिक पद को प्राप्त करता है, भौतिक कलम से मुक्त हो जाता है। मामी पार्थवे पाश्रित्य ये भी पापयोनो स्त्री वैश्यता शूद्र ते पियान्ते परांग। भगवान बोलते जो मेरी शरण में आता है वो स्त्री हो, वैश्य हो, शूद्र हो, कोई भी जाति से हो, परम धाम को प्राप्त करें। आज हम प्रार्थना करते हैं कि हम भगवान की शरण ले, भगवान के प्रतिनिधि के द्वारा, परम पूज्य राधानाथ महाराज के द्वारा, क्योंकि वैष्णव की शरण लेने से भगवान की शरणागति प्राप्त होती है। और वैष्णव की बेस्ट तरीका होता है शरणागति का कि उनके मुख से कृष्ण कथा सुन। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे।
हरे
की जय, श्री राधानाथ महाराज की जय। श्रीधर प्रभु लाइव करेंगे स्क्रीन शेयरिंग। हरि बोल।
हाँ प्रभु जी कर रहा हूँ प्रभु जी, हो रहा है प्रभु जी, 1 मिनट। प्रभु जी आवाज आ रहा है क्या अभी?
नहीं,
1 सेकंड प्रभु जी।
तो राधा माधव हो गए। ये तो आप इंग्लिश शुद्ध लगा दीजिएगा। हरि बोल। हाँ हो गया।
गौरांगी राधे
साउंड आया प्रभु जी?
वृंदावनेश्वरी
हाँ आगे आगे।
वृषभानु
ठीक ठीक।
देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो
करो करो। श्रीधर प्रभु फुल साइज करो। श्रीधर
नमः। श्री कृष्ण
क्या प्रभु जी?
चैतन्य
हाँ अभी ठीक
प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमः ओं विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत
स्वामी
स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशधारिणे। Hare Krishna. Forgive me, but I am going to just take about 1 minute to have darshan of all the effulgent Vaishnavas who are assembled.
महाराज जूम पे देख रहे हैं स्क्रीन। ये जूम का लिंक अलग है ना? आप जूम से या यूट्यूब से?
ये जूम के ऊपर जूम का लिंक है।
आप जूम पे हैं?
मैंने जूम पे।
अच्छा। नहीं जनरल ग्रुप में डाल दिया।
ग्रुप में
जो पहले लॉगिन था दिखाओ।
आपने जो कितने सदा है।
अच्छा आप तो यही देख रहे हैं ना?
हाँ।
ऐसे करता हूँ ये इधर लगा देता हूँ मेरा। इधर इस पे स्पॉटलाइट करो।
I am so grateful to be with
स्पॉटलाइट
you,
नहीं मतलब
seeing all of you
इधर
on this virtual
इधर
screen
प्रभु
that is in front of me is transforming my life in such a wonderful way.
हरि बोल।
In any way we can associate with devotees,
इधर का वही अभी चले जाते।
we are truly blessed by Krishna. I would like to speak from a verse from Bhagavad Gita today.
तो जी आप बीच में चले गए क्या? मैं बोल रहा हूँ इधर।
This is from the 11th chapter, text 54. Bhaktya tvananyaya shakya aham evam vidorarjuna gyatam drastam chatatvena praveshtam cha parantapa. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Krishna can be understood only by the process of undivided devotional service. He explicitly explains this in this verse. So unauthorized commentators who try to understand Bhagavad Gita by the speculative process will know that they are simply wasting their time. No one can understand Krishna or how he came from parents in a four-handed form and at once changed himself into a two-handed form. It is clearly stated here that no one can see him. Those who, however, are very experienced students of Vedic literature can learn about him from the Vedic literature in so many ways. There are so many rules and regulations, and if one at all wants to understand Krishna, he must follow the regulative principles described in the authorized literature. One can perform penance in accordance with those principles. As far as charity is concerned, it is plain that charity should be given to the devotees of Krishna who are engaged in his devotional service. To expand the philosophy throughout the world, Krishna consciousness is a benediction to humanity. Lord Chaitanya was appreciated by Rupa Goswami as the most munificent man of charity because love of Krishna, which is very difficult to achieve, was distributed freely by him. And if one worships as prescribed in the temples of India, there are always some statue, usually of Vishnu or Krishna. That is a chance to progress. For the beginners in devotional service to the Lord, temple worship is very essential, and this is confirmed in the Vedic literature. Hare Krishna. After a long time we are together. In this verse from Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is giving everyone the ultimate hope that simply by undivided devotional service we can understand Krishna as he is. All material qualifications and disqualifications are not considered by the Lord. Through one's karma or pious activities, one can gain material prosperity. And temporarily, one can gain prosperity even by manipulation and impiety. But that will always have its eventual results. One can achieve supernatural powers through austerities in the yoga practice. One can even achieve liberation by cultivation of knowledge and total detachment from selfish enjoyment.
स्वार्थ की इच्छा से मुक्त होकर
But pure devotional service is very rare
शुद्ध भक्ति बहुत दुर्लभ
because through devotional service, Krishna reveals himself
कृष्ण अपने आप
to
को
a
प्रकट करते
devotee.
हैं। श्रीधर प्रभु आवाज आ रहा है?
Therefore, there is no greater treasure, no greater wealth, and no greater
हाँ प्रभु जी आवाज आ रहा है लेकिन
benediction
आपका कम आ रहा है प्रभु जी, महाराज से
than
ज्यादा
the
आ रहा है।
opportunity
हाँ वो ठीक है महाराज के जान
to make progress in the path of pure devotional
शुद्ध
service.
भक्ति के मार्ग पे प्रगति करने के लिए आवश्यक है।
Krishna is speaking these essential truths in the Bhagavad Gita.
इसको करने के लिए एंगल ऐसा करना पड़ेगा।
Bhaktiyatvananya shakya aham evam vidorja. Gyatam drastam cha tatvena praveshtam cha tarampa.
भगवान बताते हैं भगवद
Only
गीता
by
में
undivided devotion
कि
can be
मेरी
understood
अहितु
as I
भक्ति के
am.
द्वारा ही मैं जाना जा सकता
And in Krishna's pastimes, in Lord Ramchandra's pastimes,
हूँ। भगवान कृष्ण की लीला में
manifested these truths
रामचंद्र की
in
लीला में ये सत्य बताते हैं
the most enlightened and graphic ways.
बहुत अच्छे तरीके से भगवान ने समझाते हैं।
In the incarnation of Sri Chaitanya
चैतन्य
in original
महाप्रभु के
form,
अपने मूल
Lord
रूप में आते हैं।
Chaitanya took these
चैतन्य
essential truths of Bhagavad Gita,
भगवद
and
गीता
through
के
his
संस्कृत
life and through the lives of his devotees,
के भक्तों के जीवन के द्वारा
taught us how to practice them.
बताया कि कैसे इसका अभ्यास किया जाए।
In regard to this verse from the 11th chapter of the
एक
Gita,
लीला बताई
I will reflect on some of the lessons that Lord Chaitanya taught us.
मैं भी वही करता हूँ लेकिन लोग डांटते हैं एक श्लोक लिया
Mahaprabhu, he was given the instruction of his guru,
गुरु ने इंस्ट्रक्शन दिया
Srila Ishwara Puri,
कि आप जाओ
to spread
ये कृष्ण
the
प्रेम
message of the Harinam Sankirtan movement
नाम संकीर्तन जो है
throughout the world.
पूरे दुनिया में प्रचार करो।
Harinama Harinama Harinameva
हरे नाम
Kevalam
हरे
Kalo
नाम
Nasteva Nasteva Nasteva
कलो नास्तेव
Gatiranyata.
नास्तेव नास्तेव
That in
करते
this age of Kali, this is the greatest
इस
benediction.
कलयुग में सबसे बड़ा
It is the
आशीर्वाद यही
means by which we can cultivate
तरीका
love
है
for Krishna within our
जिससे हम
heart.
कृष्ण प्रेम को प्राप्त कर सकते हैं।
Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains
शिला भक्ति ठाकुर समझाते
that
हैं
Radharani and Krishna are both fully manifested within their holy names.
राधा और कृष्ण अपने नाम के रूप में प्रकट
Lord Chaitanya has given us this Maha Mantra
चैतन्य
as the
महाप्रभु
prime mantra for
ये
chanting.
मुख्य मंत्र दिया
Although we read in his biographies, he and his devotees chanted many mantras and many names of
बहुत
Krishna.
सारे
But
मंत्र
still
गाते
this Maha Mantra was prime and has been handed down for all the centuries by his beloved acharyas. This Maha Mantra has all power.
between sound and video
Radharani, all of her grace, all of her compassion, all of her love. Krishna, all of his strength, all of his power, all of his
अपने सारी
beauty.
शक्ति सारी सुंदरता के साथ
Shri Radha Krishna, their qualities, their forms, their pastimes, their abode, their associates, and our eternal relationship with Krishna in the spiritual world.
कृष्ण का
All these things are
वो
revealed
सब प्रकट हो जाता
when we learn to chant the names of
अगर हम कृष्ण
Krishna
का नाम सच्चे दिल से
with devotion.
भक्ति भाव से नाम लेते हैं तो अपने आप सब प्रकट हो जाता है।
Now, Lord Chaitanya performed wonderful pastimes, sometimes mysterious
और
pastimes.
चैतन्य प्रभु गुह्य लीला
And if we go deep into understanding these wonderful narrations, we see how he is giving such depth to the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita.
वो श्रीमद् भागवत गीता और भागवतम को इतना महत्व देते हैं
Came to give pure devotional service to everyone.
सबको शुद्ध भक्ति देना चाहते हैं।
It is described by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami that he and the Panchatattva, his associates, they plundered the storehouse of love of God. They tested the sweet contents and they distributed it without considering who was fit or who was unfit, who was qualified or who was unqualified, without considering the place or the time or any material consideration. Lord Chaitanya requested all of his devotees to help him to distribute the fruits of love of God, especially through this chanting of God's names. Still, when he began his Sankirtan pastimes in Navadvip Dham, he wanted to teach a good lesson, an essential principle. Because without understanding this, we cannot appropriately chant the holy names of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya only had Sankirtan at the beginning in the house of Srivas, the Srivas Angam. He would only allow pure devotees who had no material desires, who actually had awakened love for Krishna, to be among his eternal associates in the house of Srivas. In fact, Lord Chaitanya was very careful to make sure that the doors were locked. No one could get in, except those who had undivided devotional service. In this verse from Gita, Krishna is saying it is only by undivided devotional service that you can see me as I am. In Srivasangam, Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, who has come to taste the infinite love of Sri Radha. And it is in that mood of the supreme devotee that he is performing kirtan. His beautiful form during kirtan, every gesture and every motion of his dance, expression of his infinite love for Krishna. Every movement of his body
क्या हो रहा है? स्क्रीन शेयरिंग ऑफ हो गया क्या? हरि बोल. एक बार चल ट्राई कर ले. डायरेक्ट जूम में कोई लगा नहीं, तो डायरेक्ट जूम कर लेंगे. ये ट्राई करिए, ये जूम.
even the greatest scholars, austere yogis, the most pious and charitable people of Navadvip.
हरि बोल प्रभु जी. हरि बोल.
हाँ यस प्रभु जी.
नहीं हो रहा क्या?
नहीं हो रहा था प्रभु जी, नेटवर्क इशू हो गया था.
अच्छा. ठीक है।
The common people and even the devotees would hear about the kirtans at Srivasangam. They would see Lord Chaitanya walking down the street. They would see him in so many ways during the day, performing his activities. But still those devotees were yearning and longing to see his beautiful form of dancing in the ecstasy of kirtan. Still, they were yearning and longing to hear Lord Chaitanya with his own mouth vibrating the holy names. They were yearning and longing to see the intimate exchanges between Lord Chaitanya and his devotees during the Nama Sankirtan. This was very rare. Even the greatest scholars, the most austere yogis, the most pious and charitable people of Navadvip, they yearned to go in, but they were not given entrance because they did not have undivided devotion to see the Lord as he is. And those who were somewhat proud or very proud, actually, they wanted to see the Lord chanting and dancing. But because they were not given entrance, they became critical and offensive to Lord Chaitanya himself. Who is he? Who does he think he is to not give us entrance? We are learned, we are Brahmins, we are austere.
Hare Krishna.
It's interesting how when we don't
अनम्यूट करने में ही लेट हो रहा है
receive what we want from the Lord, even as devotees, we can turn against the Lord.
Spotlight नहीं हो रहा ना.
And these people, some of them, they didn't exactly turn against the Lord, but they turned against Srivas, the devotee of the Lord.
खाली important वाक्य करता हूँ.
Panchatatvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam. In the Panchatattva, Srivas Thakur is the personification of a devotee, of a bhakta. He represents one who has attained pure devotional service. Srivas is an incarnation of Narada Muni, the great giver of pure devotional service. So these people, they were criticizing Srivas. Some of them would not blame the Lord directly, but they blamed Srivas Thakur. Who is he to not allow us into his house? We will break his house down, we will throw it in the Ganges, and we will throw him and his brothers in with it. We will banish them from the city of Navadvip. How dare they?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Such a sense of entitlement. And how that sense of entitlement, because of their perhaps piety, austerities, knowledge, social position, how they felt they had a right to criticize a devotee. Lord Chaitanya taught the devotees before he began this 1 year of all night, every night kirtans in Srivasangam. He taught them how to chant. And this was his message. Trinadapi sunichena tarori vasihishvara amani namanadena kirtaniya sadahari. One should chant in a humble state of mind, like a blade of grass, tolerant like a tree. Offer all respect to others and expect none in return. It is only in this way that one can chant the name of the Lord constantly. Many people wanted to get in, but only those with undivided devotion could come. And even some devotees were feeling very compassionate and sympathetic toward the people. But the devotees understood how strict Lord Chaitanya was. So they were very afraid to break that rule. But Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, in his Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, he describes that there was one Brahman, brahmacharya, who was very, very austere. He never ate cooked foods. He only drank milk and sometimes took a little fruit. And according to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, he wouldn't even drink milk if it was cooked. It was just raw milk. So he was very austere. And he had a very pure heart. He came to Srivas and pleading from his heart of hearts, he said, please,
yes, Guruji.
you are the Lord's dear associate. Everyone knows how the Lord is always kind to those who the devotees bless. Please allow me, just one time, in one day, let me see the beautiful dance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as he's performing Nam Sankirtan. This is my ultimate desire, and it is the ultimate goal of my life. Srivas listened, but he explained, it is just not.
उसे चाहिए वो वही करो,
चुपचाप सुन लेगा,
हाँ
अपने सुन लेगा,
हाँ तो फायदा ही नहीं है, कुछ हो नहीं होता। आप ऐसा करो, वो जो मैंने जूम लिंक दिया था ना, वो
महाराज का,
हाँ देखते उसमें जगह है क्या, वो बेस्ट है, देखिए महाराज देख।
Srivas Thakur, being such a great devotee, he could see into the heart of this person. And eventually Srivas said, I know that you are very pure in heart and you are without sin. Because you desire to see the Lord so deeply, I will allow you to come in my house. But because of the Lord's rule, you will have to hide. Before the kirtan started, Srivas Thakur brought that Brahmin into the house and hid him in a secret place. The kirtan began. Everyone was chanting the holy names. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was loudly chanting the holy names. And in the bhakti rasa, in the ecstasy of pure love, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to dance. It is unimaginable to even try to picture in our minds the beauty of Lord Chaitanya dancing. It is described in Jagannath Puri when he would dance in front of Jagannath's chariot. Anybody who even saw him would achieve the highest perfection of life, love of Krishna. That means so beautiful, emanating such grace, such mercy, that the power of just the vision of seeing Lord Chaitanya absorbed in love of Krishna, dancing, would completely purify one's mind and one's heart and awaken one's love for Krishna. when Mahaprabhu danced, all the devotees, because they were the Lord's eternal associates and those who were completely surrendered in loving service. For them to see Lord Chaitanya dancing, for them to hear the holy names coming from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's heart, it was like a massive tsunami of grace. They would go wild. And it is described that as the devotees awaken love for Lord Chaitanya, they simultaneously, spontaneously, and naturally develop love for each other. And this is one of the tests of how we're actually chanting Krishna's name and become Dadhar. They were continuously, while they were dancing, embraced one another. It was a beautiful sight. And Advaita Acharya, he was in so much happiness. He was dancing and running in circles around the other devotees around the Lord and going here and there. Meanwhile, this brahmachari is watching from a secret place. Suddenly, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stopped the kirtan. And he said, excuse me, let me make an adjustment here. And he said, today I am not feeling love for Krishna. Something is wrong. Someone is in this house that is not allowed to be here. Please tell me, is someone here? Lord Chaitanya looked at Srivas Thakur. Srivas, he knew you cannot tell a lie to the absolute truth and get away with it. Nor would he ever even consider doing so. With great humility and transcendental fear, Srivas said, my Lord, I promise you, there is no materialistic people here. There was no blasphemers or offenders here. But there is one brahmachari. He longs and begs to see you dance and hear you chant. He's without sin. He only drinks milk. I confess, I put him in a hiding place. He is here. When Lord Chaitanya heard this, in order to make a philosophical point for all time to come, he became very angry, like fire. He said, get that person out of here at once. Why do you think that one can see me simply by drinking milk? It is only by undivided devotion that I can be seen. Even if a person from the lowest stratum of society, with a background of sinful activities, even if such a person takes shelter of me, I belong to him and he belongs to me. But even a great renunciate and a sannyasi who does all sorts of austerity and memorizes all Vedic scriptures, if they do not surrender to me, if they do not take shelter, I do not give myself to such a person, nor can they know me. Tell me, what austerities did Gachandra, or the monkeys of Lord Ramchandra, or the Gopis of Vrindavan performed? Yet they directly saw Krishna. They directly saw me because of their devotion. Get this person out of here at once before I destroy everything. The devotees were trembling. That brahmachari in his hiding place was trembling in fear. Can you imagine being in the same room with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Lord Narsingha Dev is a partial expansion of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We understand what his anger was. When Lord Chaitanya was angry, that brahmachari, he was trembling. And Lord Chaitanya said, "Get him out!" Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he said like this, the brahmachari, he stood up and had to walk by the Lord and all the devotees to get out of the house. As he was walking, everyone was looking at him. And he was thinking in his mind, I got to see the Lord dance. For those moments, I had the supreme benediction of hearing the Lord chanting with his devotees. But the Lord is so merciful that I have committed so many offenses, and he has given me the suitable punishment by chastising me. He was accepting the chastisement of the Lord, as severe as it was, as the Lord's blessing. And at the same time, he was so grateful for those moments when he could see that dance. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in the heart of every living being. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hridaya tishtati. And he understood that this brahmachari was grateful to be punished by the Lord. And the Lord was so pleased by that. Even though the brahmachari was already outside of the house, Lord Chaitanya told the devotees, bring him back in. They brought the brahmachari in. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu placed his lotus feet on the brahmachari's head and accepted him as eternal associate and eternal servant. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, please understand, it is only by undivided devotional service that I could be understood as I am, not by any other means. In Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's chastisement of this brahmachari, he gave example of Gachandra. from the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. This wonderful story gives an illustration. Gachandra was powerful. He was famous. But however much we acquire in our material life, material nature will eventually defeat us. In the same 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita we're reading from, Krishna explains, I am time. In the form of time, Krishna takes everything away from everyone. He takes away our property, our loved ones, our skills, our youth, our beauty, and eventually he takes away our body and everything in connection to the body. It's just a matter of time. Time is the all-pervading energy of Krishna within this world. And through the power of time, which activates the whole material nature, the Adhyatmaka, Adhibhautika, Adhidaivika, miseries caused by the body and mind, miseries caused by other people or other living entities, or miseries caused by natural sources. They could come upon anyone at any time. We know in due course of time we're going to lose our longevity, our strength in our lives. But by understanding these threefold miseries of material nature, we understand that they can come upon anybody at any time. But Krishna tells in the Gita, Daivi hesha gunamayi mamamaya duratyaya mamevam ye prapadyante mayameta tarantite. That this material nature with the three modes are very, very difficult to overcome. But one who takes shelter of me can easily cross over and achieve me. So Gachandra had so many material qualifications. But at a time when he was enjoying with his family a wonderful, kind of like a holiday, they went to the most beautiful site in paradise. This area called Trikuta is a heavenly abode. Now, can you imagine what type of place it must be? The favorite vacation place in the heavenly abodes of paradise. That's where they went, to this wonderful pond surrounded by trees and flowers, and Gachandra with all of his children and his loved ones, they were all together, and Gachandra wanted to make them happy. He went in this water which was like nectar because there was so many lotus flowers, and the pollen of the lotus flowers was saturated in the water. It was just wonderful. And it was just the right cooling temperature. And Gachandra was, with his trunk, he was spraying this water upon all his loved ones. The water itself was delightful. But when something's offered with love, it becomes even more relishable. I'm just seeing devotees that I haven't seen in a long time, especially in Columbus. Hare Krishna. It's hard not to be distracted by the smiling faces of the Vaishnavas. But when the water was offered with affection, how much more pleasure it was giving the relatives. And how much pleasure it was giving Gachandra to spray his affection through the water upon his loved ones. And it was the peak of his enjoyment in family life, that moment. Suddenly, from under the water, a crocodile bit into his leg. There's a saying, if Krishna wants to protect you, nothing can harm you. And if Krishna wants to harm you, nothing can protect you. Now, Gachandra was the king of elephants. Whatever qualities we see in an elephant today, multiply that by tens and millions, and that's Gachandra. Now, it's not that easy to pierce an elephant's skin, but that crocodile was just the right person, probably the only person who could do it. He had such a mighty, powerful jaws and razor-sharp teeth. He bit into the leg of Gachandra and pierced it. Gachandra was in excruciating pain. Suddenly, within an instant, the most enjoyable experience in paradise became one of intolerable pain. Now, at first, it really didn't matter, because Gachandra was conditioned all his life because he was so strong. Nobody could interfere with what he wanted to do. So he fought against that crocodile. But the crocodile would not let go. Gachandra, with his trunk, with his leg, trying to stomp on the crocodile with his feet. In every way, he was trying to get that beast off him. Kept biting harder and harder. The fight went on for a long time. Somehow, because the crocodile was underwater, he could hardly be seen. Sometimes Gachandra would pull him up, and then a moment later, the crocodile would pull his leg back down. In time, Gachandra was losing his strength because he had no food. He was in the water. And the crocodile kept gaining strength because he was in his natural habitat of being underwater. Gachandra's loved ones were just looking on in total despair. Their husband, their father, their grandfather, they were seeing him suffering and about to die. And there was absolutely nothing anyone could do for them. And Gachandra, not only was he physically totally exhausted and defeated, but whatever ego he had was completely crushed. He was totally humiliated and defeated in the presence of all the people that he was attached to impressing. When Krishna wants to destroy one's ego, or not destroy but purify, Krishna does it with exceeding precision. So here was Gachandra, alone, humiliated, in pain, and about to die. In that state, he remembered. He remembered something that in his entire life he never even thought. He remembered from a previous lifetime a prayer in surrender to Krishna that he had learned. He lifted a lotus flower into the air and offered this beautiful prayer, taking shelter of the Supreme Lord. He didn't ask the Lord to save him from pain. He did not ask the Lord to save his life. He didn't ask the Lord for anything to alleviate his desperate condition. He simply offered his life to the Lord in undivided devotional service. At that moment, Lord Narayan Vishnu appeared riding on Garuda, and Krishna liberated Gachandra from the crocodile. And he brought Gachandra back to Vaikuntha, the spiritual world, the ultimate perfection of life. So Lord Chaitanya is exclaiming to all of us through his chastisement of this particular milk-drinking brahmachari that what was the austerity and qualifications of Gachandra? He had a family. He had so many children. He was like a king of the forest. What austerities did he perform? What learning of Vedas did he have? He wasn't even a human. But be shelter of the Lord, he could see Lord Vishnu and achieve pure devotional service to the Lord. And the monkeys in Ram's Leela. Of course we know Hanuman. He is the very embodiment, the personification of pure love. But then there were others like Sugriva. They had issues, in the past. if we read the Ramayana, they had egos and they had material attachments and they had complications. But still, when they took shelter of Lord Ramchandra, they achieved the highest position of being the Lord's eternal associates. And herein, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is emphasizing they were not humans. They were monkeys. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates very much crashed through sectarian materialistic discrimination against anybody based on material considerations. What to speak of caste or race or religious background or pious or impious lifetimes. We like to think in terms of this person is from a higher status than this person, based on these considerations. But here Lord Chaitanya is saying, Sugriva, he was a monkey. He wasn't a human. Monkeys are really considered to be in the mode of passion among animals. But because he took shelter of the Lord, he was given the highest position. And the Gopis of Vrindavan, they were not, by material consideration, considered learned. They were not Brahmins. They just churned butter, milked cows, made garlands. And Krishna, he allowed the Gopis to dance with him. In fact, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes that the dancing kirtans in the house of Srivas were non-different than the Rasa Leela in Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes. If you can hold on one moment, I will be with you. Hare Krishna. Not only were the Gopis seeing Krishna dancing, they were personally dancing with Krishna. And not only were they dancing with Krishna, but Krishna was giving each and every Gopi the experience that he was with that particular Gopi alone. And each Gopi is thinking of all the devotees, of all the Gopis that are assembled, and they are all so much better than me. Still, Krishna's only with me. He doesn't even look at anyone else except me. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahi Anya. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna in the mood of the love of Shri Radha. Radha Bhava Duti Subalitam Nome Krishna Swarupam. Krishna has come with the Mahabhava, the love, and the beautiful golden complexion of Shri Radha. That is Mahaprabhu. So he is dancing in Srivasangam, and all the devotees are seeing his dance, and they are dancing with him. And he is personally reciprocating with each devotee to the very core of their souls, knowing exactly how to give that devotee the greatest happiness. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave these examples. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur very much highlighted this principle of how the Lord does not consider anything except the sincerity of one's devotion. Vibhishan, he was the younger brother of Ravana. He lived as one of Ravana's chief ministers his whole life. And he's coming from a family of Rakshasas. And little Prahlad is the son of Hiranyakashipu. Sometimes we evaluate people by their age. Often Srila Prabhupada, to children, when they would come and offer, when he would see a little child dance, Prabhupada would be so happy. When he saw the smile of a child, when he gave them a cookie during Guru Puja, Prabhupada smiled back so radiantly. Srila Prabhupada taught us we cannot evaluate a person by their age. After all, Dhruva, he saw Krishna directly in the Madhuban forest, and he was only 5 years old. The Yagyapatnis, the Brahmins' wives, they didn't know the mantras and tantras and yantras and pujas and mudras that their husbands did. Their husbands were so qualified in every type of austerity and every type of worship ceremony and every type of mantra chanting and yagyas. But yet they condemned themselves in the end. That our wives, they know Krishna. They love Krishna. They have achieved the ultimate perfection. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in this wonderful pastime, he is giving so many lessons, one of which, that it is only through undivided devotion that we can understand the Lord as He is. Relevant to all of us as devotees as well. If we think that our accomplishments, our learning, our austerities, our ashram, our wealth, our charity, our skills, if we become proud due to any of these situations, we are not qualified. What does undivided devotion mean? What does it really mean to take shelter of the Lord? And great souls, they respect this quality alone. Where there is that humble disposition of mind, where one completely takes shelter of the Lord. That is greatness. The greatness of this material world is mainly distractions. And then there is Ugrasena. Ugrasena is Krishna's grandfather, and he's a king, and he's wealthy, and he's noble, and he's pious, and he has all these qualifications that we're talking about, but he completely took shelter of the Lord. Therefore, he could see Krishna directly. Srila Prabhupada would quote Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, don't try to see Krishna, but try to serve Krishna in a way that he is pleased to see you. And that is what this pastime is revealing to us. When Lord Chaitanya is pleased to see us, that is the perfection. And it is then that he reveals himself to us. in another similar example in regard to this verse today, there was a great scholar, one of the most famous and celebrated scholars of all of Navadvip. His name was Devananda Pandit. He specialized in the recitation and explanation of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But somehow or other, he disrespected Srivas. Now, Srivas represents pure devotion. He represents the devotee. When we chant the Panchatattva mantra, Srivas is representing in many ways the pure devotee and the whole devotee community. Devananda Pandit, he hurt the heart by disrespecting Srivas. Srivas didn't do anything, he didn't say anything, he just considered it his own fault. And he was sad that he misbehaved. And he went home. But Krishna punished Devananda Pandit in such a way that he couldn't recognize the truth of Srimad Bhagavatam, and he couldn't recognize Lord Chaitanya, who is the goal of the Bhagavatam, who is walking right in front of him. After Lord Chaitanya accepted sannyas and left Navadvip for Puri, there was a very great devotee named Vakreshwar Pandit, who was especially empowered in kirtan. How he danced, how he chanted. It is described that he and Lord Chaitanya could dance for days and days at a time. Devananda Pandit happened to see Vakreshwar Pandit's singing and dancing and wanted to serve him. This little spark of a desire to serve a devotee awakened in his heart. With Lord Chaitanya directly, he was not given access to devotional service, but through his devotee, something special happened. And he began to serve Vakreshwar Pandit. And when he would do kirtan and people would get in the way of Lord Vakreshwar Pandit's dancing, Devananda, he was an elderly man with his stick, he would respectfully clear the way so that Vakreshwar Pandit could dance without any disturbance. Because of this, his heart softened, and he realized that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna. And I didn't recognize him. And he burned with guilt. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, on his attempted journey to Vrindavan, he came back to Navadvip. He went to an area called Koladvip. And there Devananda Pandit stood from a distance as Lord Chaitanya was forgiving and giving devotional service to all those people who had previously offended him, who were coming for shelter. Devananda Pandit was too humble and too ashamed to even approach the Lord. But the Lord saw him and said, Devananda, because you have served Vakreshwar, you come. Krishna forever lives in the heart of Vakreshwar Pandit, and whenever he dances, Krishna dances. Because you have served a great devotee, you may come. Lord Chaitanya excused him of all of his offenses and gave him pure devotional service. Devananda Pandit, he was crying. He asked, please tell me, I'm speaking Srimad Bhagavatam, but I don't know what it really means. Please tell me, should I speak it? And if I do, what is the real meaning I should be teaching? Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave wonderful instructions for all of us. He said that Srimad Bhagavatam is a scripture that only discusses one essential topic: pure, unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service. Love for Krishna. Savaipung samparo dharmo yato bhaktir hoksha jaya hoitaki apratiyataya yatma suprasidati. True Dharma is that which awakens undivided devotional service, that is unmotivated and uninterrupted. Dharma projita kaitavatra. Srimad Bhagavatam puts aside every other religious principle and discusses pure devotional service. In the Gita, Krishna concludes, Sarva dharman parityasya mam ekam sharanam braja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha ishamimasuchaha. Abandon all varieties of dharma and just take shelter of me. Surrender to me. I shall protect you from all reactions. And Srimad Bhagavatam begins from this place. Srimad Bhagavatam. If anyone thinks I know the Srimad Bhagavatam, then they are unqualified to understand it. But if one is submissive, if one is humble, and one recognizes, I'm so small I cannot know the Srimad Bhagavatam, to that person who takes shelter, I reveal the truth of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the mystery of bhakti. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he once said, if I had any love for Krishna, I would not be living in separation from him. The fact that I'm breathing and my heart is beating means I do not have any love for Krishna. And here the Lord Chaitanya is saying, if you think you know the Srimad Bhagavatam, you cannot really take shelter. Krishna reveals himself to one who takes shelter. Like Gachandra, like Draupadi when she was being stripped of all of her dignity, a fate worse than death for her, and even her loved ones could not help her. She took shelter of the holy names of the Lord and saw the Lord. So this is the message that Lord Chaitanya was teaching to Devananda Pandit. He said every single word from the beginning, middle, end of Srimad Bhagavatam is only teaching undivided pure devotion. Magrari was a hunter. Magrari had no piety whatsoever in his life. He never gave in charity anything that was in any way moral. He was a killer. He enjoyed seeing others suffer. Yet by the mercy of Narada Muni, the doors were open for him to completely take shelter of the Lord. And then he became filled with all good qualities. It's amazing. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his teachings to Srila Sanatana Goswami, the crest jewel of all learned scholars and pure devotees, Lord Chaitanya is glorifying Mragrari to Sanatana Goswami and to all the world, just to show the power of how we can become purified when we take shelter of the Lord. That is bhakti. Another great lesson of this story is when this brahmachari was leaving, he wholeheartedly accepted the punishment, the chastisement, the public humiliation that the Lord caused upon him as his mercy. Tatena kambam susamikshamano bunjana ivatmikritam vibhagam. Srila Prabhupada often quoted this verse, that a devotee who waits for the mercy of the Lord, even while suffering all sorts of pains, considering that they are just the reactions of my own misdeeds. That devotee who is willing to suffer through the pangs of material existence, waiting for the mercy of the Lord, completely taking shelter of the Lord, and offering obeisances to the Lord in that difficult situation. That person alone is liberation, the rightful claim. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he took sannyas, renunciation, he chanted the prayer of the Avanti Brahman. That Avanti Brahman, he did all kinds of terrible things in his life. And he was suffering miserably. He was rejected by everyone. Everything in his life was taken away from him, and he was in physical pain. But in that state, he took shelter of Mukunda, of Krishna. And in taking shelter of Krishna with a grateful heart, he became an acharya. Lord Chaitanya taught all those who are really renounced, they should follow in the footsteps of the Avanti Brahman, not in what he did in the past, but how he took complete shelter of the Lord with gratitude. This brahmachari, he was grateful to be chastised by the Lord. Ashlisyava padadatam panashtumam. Lord Chaitanya taught, Krishna, you are my Lord. If you want, you may embrace me, or you can trample on me, or you can make me broken-hearted by not being present before you. You have any right to deal with me in any way you please. I am yours. This is the meaning of surrender. One of the greatest impediments to surrender is finding faults with others. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, I only find fault with others because I'm seeing the reflections of my own faults within them. He said, a devotee only finds faults with another devotee if they are honeycombed with so many faults within their own mind. Because a true devotee, sometimes Srila Prabhupada taught by his example for the benefit of others, we need to point out, the discrepancies in others. But we must be very careful. Because if there's any ego connected to that, then we're putting a wall between ourself and Krishna. Because taking shelter is in whatever situation, Krishna, I'm yours. My dear friend and brother Peter Burwash, in every lecture he gives to the devotees, he quotes something that Srila Prabhupada told him at a time when he was in great difficulty. Srila Prabhupada said, do not be angry with the messenger of your own karma when somebody mistreats us. Of course, we should not accept abuse. That is another thing. But at the same time, to unnecessarily find excuses to criticize others just to avoid taking shelter of the Lord is one of the greatest impediments on the path of bhakti. And here this brahmachari, upon being chastised by the Lord, he was grateful for the chastisement because he knew it was for his purification and he deserved it. But at the same time, he was so grateful for what he had been given. I remember at this moment our Stoka Krishna Prabhu, when he was dying of cancer, he was paralyzed. His wife, his child, everyone was going to be taken away from him. And he was smiling at me, and his eyes were glistening with affection and gratitude and joy. And he said, I never deserved to chant the names of Krishna so many times in my life. Why did Krishna give me that? He didn't ask, why is Krishna giving me this cancer and taking everything away? He was saying, why did Krishna let me read Prabhupada's books? And why did Krishna let me chant my japa every day? And why did Krishna let me associate with so many devotees in my life? And why did Krishna give me so much wonderful opportunities to see his form of the deities? I didn't deserve those things. Why did Krishna give them to me? I can only be grateful. All the sufferings and miseries are insignificant compared to all the beautiful things Krishna gave me. This brahmachari, all right, I'm being chastised, I'm being kicked out, but still, I got to see Lord Chaitanya dance. And I deserve the chastisement. In this way, he was trembling. He did not take the chastisement cheaply. He took it very, very seriously. But how he took it? With a grateful heart. When Lord Chaitanya placed his lotus feet on the brahmachari's head and told him it is only by devotion that one can know Krishna. It is only by devotion that one can realize that Krishna is not different than his name, than his deities. It is only by devotion that one can recognize that Krishna is especially revealing himself through the hearts of his devotees. And that is only possible when we learn the science, the art, the culture of taking shelter, sharanam. These beautiful stories are teaching us what it really means to take shelter of the Lord. Through our prayers, our hearts, through our words and our actions. To choose what pleases the Lord in every situation. To understand I am completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord in every situation. Srila Prabhupada gave us this gift. He gave us this gift through his books, through his lectures, through his recordings, in the deities of his temples, and in the community of devotees. To be grateful and to take shelter. We have all been through very difficult situations the last almost 2 years. We have lost many loved ones. I'm shy to mention names because there's so many other names that need to be mentioned also. But so many of our most beloved devotees in our Radha Gopinath community, in our international ISKCON community, have left us. Some from the coronavirus, others from other diseases, ailments. Many of us have become very sick. Many of us economically have been very challenged. And many of us emotionally have been so much separate from others, due to all of the lockdowns and the restrictions and the dangers. And sometimes when it seems it's getting better, it gets worse. It is a time of challenge.